We are so glad you're here. It's going to be the Connie and Kathleen show today. Am I right?
Right.
Am I right?
You're in for a treat.
I'm Connie Baker, and this is Kathleen Peters. And Kathleen is a speaker, a writer, a gifted writer, an author of a book, Embrace You.
Yes, ma'am.
Embrace You, great. This book, I got to actually do, it's a workbook. I got to go through it.
Yeah.
I'm super picky. I'm a therapist about personal development type workbooks. And I told Kathleen this, I'm like, I'm picky about this stuff. This is a good workbook, people. Embrace You. You can get it on Amazon. Very worthwhile. Very, very worthwhile to go through her book. So Kathleen speaks, she talks, but today we're talking about empathy.
Yeah, one of my favorite topics.
One of your very favorites.
Yeah.
She's got a handful, don't we all, of our favorite topics. This is one of Kathleen's very favorites. So I want to know, Kathleen, how did this journey with this idea of empathy?
How did it start?
How did it start? Where did it come from?
Yeah, it started when I was reading Brene Brown,
Okay,
The Gifts of
Brene.
Imperfection. Hopefully you all know who Brene Brown is. She's a social science researcher out of Houston, Texas. And I was reading that book and I came across some concepts that had to do with vulnerability.
Okay.
And I knew that I was struggling to be vulnerable with others. And she talks a lot about empathy.
Yes.
And I realized I was not very good at empathy. Thankfully, I learned it's actually a practice.
Yes.
It's a skill
Yes.
that you can learn to be better at.
And keep getting better at.
And so I started to learn a little bit from her reading that. And then I had some trauma happen to me in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I made this conscious choice. You were one of these people to go to specific people that I knew that were safe and be vulnerable with my story.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that was the people that I chose, they gave me empathy.
Wow. You chose well.
I chose well.
I
chose
think
on purpose.
This is a big deal. This is a very big deal. This choice of people vulnerability and empathy go together.
They do.
When we become vulnerable, we need empathy. We need somebody to be there with us. If we don't choose well, it's tough. And it's not all or nothing. I think we stick our foot in the water, stick our toe in to see what that person's response is. Hopefully we don't jump in the deep end with vulnerability with a person before they're ready. So and so you and I had been friends a long time before some of this stuff had happened, and we had I've always adored the woman. I tell her that, but it's just true. So you and I already had a good rapport and a good friendship, but that it took it to a different level when you were going through some of those really hard times.
And I realized, I think part of this was my realization that I didn't have a lot of deep relationships and I wanted more. And especially in this time of my life of dealing with trauma.
Yes.
I realized that was lacking and I wanted more of it. And so Brene talks about this vulnerability being met with empathy and how that builds connection. And I decided I wanted more of that, but I really didn't know how to do it. I really felt like a nerd.
You needed some, but it's like, oh dear, if somebody says that to me, I don't initially respond that way.
Yes.
Right.
So I, on purpose, started paying attention to you and other women that I was sharing my story with, what they were saying to me that felt good. And it was empathy. And so I would study. It made me dive in.
This is what she does.
This is what I do.
All the time. Ooh, let's research that. Yes, I love her. I'm like, Kathleen, you got any research on? Yes, I do. And
so I studied it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, right. I studied the people that were giving me empathy. I would often end up, phone conversations or personal conversations with someone that said things to me that felt really good.
Yeah.
And when that was over, I would, write them on my phone or, write them down on a notepad because I wanted to remember what it was that they said that made me feel like I was seen and heard.
Yes.
It was so impactful and powerful to me in my own healing.
Yes.
But I wanted to reciprocate.
Yeah. You wanted to give back. You knew we love most of us love making other people feel good.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, this is so helpful to me.
Right.
How can I do that for another person?
Right. And I just really felt like I didn't understand how to do it.
Yeah.
So studying it helped me not only get a
Absolutely.
grasp of it, but then I learned how to practice it and put it into practice, and I just got better at it. And then I began to realize that other people, especially women, because a lot of my work is with women, there's a lot of women who are lonely, and they are seeking deeper relationships.
And I will say this, there are so many men that are lonely too. Some of my good guy friends, my clients are dealing with struggling. Women have their own struggles for connection. And this is speaking generalities, but men often have a different set of struggles. So it's across the board.
It's across the board.
It just shows itself a bit differently in, a lot of times.
And so then that sort of spurred me to want to teach other people how to do this, because they're saying that loneliness is really at an all-time high in our society, and they're really concerned about it.
So sad, you guys. And it's a health hazard.
It's a health hazard.
It's a physical health hazard, this issue of loneliness. And so, okay, what a journey. Just getting in there and saying, I want to learn this for me, and then I want to be able to help other people. I know that you tell us a bit about, because I'm going to define empathy here pretty soon, but hold on, because we haven't even defined what we're talking about. But before we do, while we're on your story, I do want to give us what we need to know about your podcast and about other areas of work you have done that connect with empathy.
Yeah. So I started a podcast, as you know, in September, and empathy is the big perspective taking, is the big overall arching idea of that. Is, I believe, story is very important. We're connected to story. We learn through story. So my podcast is me interviewing another woman. These are women in her own very messy story. And a lot of these stories are either they're very familiar, like we probably know other people in our life that have
had this
happen. So this woman tells her story, and I'm hoping that through her telling her story that we are connecting to how she feels.
Yes.
So that we feel compassion and empathy for her, and it helps us to
even
build
if she's in a very different, likely she's in a different stage of life or a different place in life than we are, maybe experiencing different things. But hearing her story, we still emotionally connect with, wow, that could be really difficult, and I hadn't seen it that way.
Yeah, so it's called What She Wishes You Knew. And so the premise really is then, kind of the implicit premise then is, she's got some information about her story that she's been polite and hasn't told us. Things that we've said and done that maybe have hurt her.
Right.
And
they're going to make us uncomfortable if she tells us.
And but she's going to tell us those things so that in turn we can go to the people that we love and care about and support them. And offer empathy to them. So she ends up telling us things to say that feel good.
What She Wishes You Knew is the podcast. So I'm thinking the last one I listened to was a single person. What that single person in your world wishes that you knew about that situation. Beautiful. Okay.
And we're going to talk about how that is empathy, how that helps people develop the skill of empathy. But that was really the idea, the overarching idea of the podcast, is to help people feel empathy for one another, because I think we're in a very divisive, tribal society right now, where we're just we're us versus them.
I'm in this tribe, you're out of that tribe. And so to start, and you throw what I love about this is you've described 2/3 or 3/4 of what this podcast is about. Then what she does, I'll tell you, she throws a curve. And at the very end, she asks them a potentially controversial question. And then they say, so for instance, you're thinking, oh, this wonderful single woman, I love her. Oh, I love her heart. She's really describing her situation well. And then a question comes that can unsettle you. Oh my gosh, she believes that about homeschooling. Oh, she believes that about drinking alcohol or whatever. It's just such, very, very,
at the
fun.
very end, she just drops three things that could be controversial to you, that might just hit your buttons, and then you're left with,
it pushes to another layer of empathy. It pushes to another layer of, am I going to let that issue determine how I feel completely about this person I just felt connected to? It's brilliant. It truly is brilliant. It's so fun. What she wishes you knew. All right.
Yeah.
So let's define this thing.
Let's define
What
it.
is this thing? Kathleen, empathy. What the heck is it?
I've done a lot of studying of different definitions, and there are a lot of different definitions. But the one that I like the most is Brené's, and it's very simply feeling with.
Okay.
And there's 4 components to that. Do you want me to go into that?
Sure, absolutely.
She talks about there being 4 components to empathy. One is perspective taking, and I can go into further detail on that.
But what does that mean?
That means, so like for instance, let's take a woman by the name of Jill. Okay, Jill has just found out she has breast cancer. Okay, she has told you that she has breast cancer. So perspective taking is then taking in the details of what her life looks like. So often I think we get in trouble with empathy when we go, okay, what would that feel like for me?
How would I feel if I got breast cancer?
Right.
Not relevant.
It's not relevant. So it's taking in the details of her life. And maybe that's, oh, Jill has a 3-year-old and she has a 6-month-old, and she's still nursing the baby. And so you think about, oh, breast cancer, is she going to be able to nurse? Her husband lost his job 3 months ago. She is the main breadwinner. Before she was working part-time, now she's working full-time. Like, you're taking in all these details of her life.
Yes, and maybe her personality. Let's throw a weird twist in this. What if Jill has a personality type that is all sunshine and rosy colored glasses and lives in a bit of denial and avoidance?
Right.
And you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, what is she going to do? And she's like, yeah, we're going to take this one step at a time. And you're like, okay, whoa, grind gears. What the heck is just happening here?
Right.
Yeah, but the empathy is to enter her framework.
Yes.
Even if we're looking at this and going, girl, where are you? Right then, that's where she's at. So it has so many layers. What does her life look like?
Yes.
How does she deal with difficulties? What is her personality types?
Right.
You know.
But it's about her.
It's about her.
And that's the thing I think that we often lose in empathy is we start thinking about ourselves. Like, well, how can I connect to her story? And if I think you first enter into her perspective.
Yes.
The second one is suspend judgment. Oh. So don't criticize or
Okay,
judge
so
her.
Jill is good here, isn't it? Especially that little twist I put in there.
Yes, exactly.
Because for somebody like me, I'm like, oh, girl, you're going to get your butt kicked and you don't even see it coming. You know, because I'm like, oh, you're going to go through such trauma. I immediately am like, I'm a therapist. What am I supposed to do? I've always been like this long before I was a therapist. But this feeling of, oh my gosh, she's not engaging this at the level I am. That is correct.
That is correct.
So,
and again,
no
it's
judgment.
about her, and it's about listening to her. So suspending all your judgment, which is really hard for a lot of us.
It is hard I think for all of us in some degree.
We are very much in a society of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You make your own destiny, and so we are looking to see what she's done wrong. Right.
Well, because we're judging so that we can correct so she feels better.
Yes.
So we feel better.
So we can fix her.
So really all this judgment and correction and teaching and telling her what she's doing right or wrong, whatever, is to make us go, okay, now she's in a better spot. So I can decrease my anxiety around this.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, so suspend judgment. What's the third one?
Third one is to identify her feelings.
Yes.
Us.
We think, what is she feeling?
What is she feeling? What am I hearing her say that she's feeling?
Right.
In this case, where you said Jill is bubbly and sunshiny, like it's probably not grief yet.
Yes, correct.
It may be shock.
Right.
She's walking around in shock, right? So it's identifying that or attempting to identify it, and that may take some digging around and asking some questions. Right. But then once that identification is made, then it's communicating that feeling.
That's number 4.
It's communicating that now I understand what it is that you're feeling.
Yes, and putting that into words for her.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to number 3 real quick. You said it takes some digging around, and that is absolutely correct, because what we want to do is to jump to a conclusion about how she's feeling.
Absolutely.
And then lock it down This is something I have to learn as a therapist all the time.
Okay.
I'm pretty good at catching a tone, catching a feeling, but there's sometimes I reflect a feeling back and they look at me and go, nope.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
not really. Okay, what have I missed? Rather than feel defensive, like, oh, well, I thought I felt that. I thought I knew how you were feeling. To keep curiosity.
Yes.
To stay curious, to stay open, to be influenced by letting them tell you what that experience is like, not us trying to lock it down for them, but have an openness to say, oh, and look, half hour later, she actually feels a little bit different about it. Because in a big trauma situation, it will feel different.
Right.
So, okay, so great. So again, the first one is, what was it?
It's perspective taking.
Perspective taking.
Perspective. Take in information about what's going on in her
Yes,
life.
her perspective, or his, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Jill, we're talking about Jill here.
Jill.
And so then it is
suspending judgment.
Suspending judgment, identifying emotions, and then reflecting back those emotions to that person.
The understanding that you understand that feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it takes a lot of heat off. These 4 things it's not my job to know the answers.
No, it's so not.
It's about you and what you're feeling, and I'm just trying to. I'm just digging around to try to figure out what that is.
Right. We're just trying to keep up.
Yes.
We're not trying to be ahead of the game. We're not trying to lead. We're not trying to direct. We're trying to keep up. We're just keeping up with them. We're tracking with them.
And the thing that's really fascinating about not getting that feeling right, when like you said, your client said, no, I don't feel that, is that I found that a lot of times if I will say, it sounds like you're angry, and they say, actually, I'm not angry at all. Very few times do people get offended by that.
No.
They actually, they kind of like that you're trying to figure it out.
It is a clarifying process for them.
Yeah.
I don't mind it when people get my emotions wrong. I'll look and go, no. But that's a good point. It's not anger. I think it's actually fear. Or it's like there's that even giving the wrong word is not the wrong word, whatever, is actually is still a clarifying sorting that goes on in that empathetic process.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. I love this. Okay, so I got a dictionary definition here that I forgot which ones these are from. I kind of copied and pasted. Okay, and it really underscores what we're talking about here. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing. Here's the key word: from within their frame of reference.
Yeah.
What we do is we say, oh, I understand what you're experiencing because I went through that.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I can imagine what it would be like to go through that. For you. No.
Yeah.
What we're doing, their frame of reference. And the other one is the ability to sense other people's emotions coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling, that imagination piece and awareness, just, okay. And then cognitive empathy sometimes is called perspective taking. That is where you don't necessarily even engage it emotionally that much, like yourself. You're just saying, oh my goodness, this is... mentally, I can see what might be going on with them. That's a really strong point of empathy. Yeah. So perspective taking refers to our ability to identify and understand other people's emotions. Kathleen and I had a talk about this earlier today. There's a spectrum we're talking about how much we may or may not feel those emotions in us. I think a lot of times there's at least a hint of feeling them ourselves. But sometimes it's quite strong. We really tapped into the sadness that that other person. And that's all, that'll be on a continuum probably. But you can be very empathetic without engaging in a whole lot of your own emotional intensity with it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think one of the things we talked about earlier is it's boundaries. It's creating boundaries for yourself.
Yes.
The healthier I have gotten, less codependent I've become. I can feel with you.
Yes.
I can identify your feeling of grief, and I know what grief is like for me, right? And I can go in there with you, but I can walk away from that conversation not...
And you can also go in on a scale from 1 to 10.
Right.
You can put your big toe in and, kind of, don't know, just feel it a bit and pull out. Or you can jump in the deep end. And you can make choices for yourself about how much am I going to personally feel this and let my body take that impact of feeling that emotion.
Right.
You know, as a therapist, I have to gauge this really carefully. You know, when I have 7 to 8 clients in one day, there's a lot of emotions in the room, a lot of big feelings, and I need to engage those to some degree, but I cannot engage them all at an 8, 9, or 10, or I'll just go home a mess.
Yeah.
I can still be empathetic, and I think I want you guys to really hear that difference between having no emotional skin is different than appropriate, helpful empathy.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people now are talking about empathy in a way of just basically, I have no skin, I feel everything around me.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate or helpful empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of people, and they're out there and they've got real gifts with that,
Yeah.
but there needs to be learning, how do I get skin?
Yeah.
That is a skill that has to be learned,
Right.
or you are at the mercy of any emotion that anybody has,
Yeah.
and no one wants to live that way.
No, that's
so
no way to
that's
live.
a skill. That's a whole nother
Right.
idea. But the empathy we're talking about has a degrees to which we can actually engage that emotion.
Yeah.
So, one thing I kept thinking about as we were getting ready for this, Kathleen, is what empathy is not.
Yes, let's talk
And
about
so,
that.
and so we just did one of them. I think this whole idea of no emotional skin, feeling everything in the air around you with people all the time, is not productive.
Right.
Empathy. It can be, in the sense of you have very finely tuned sensitivity skills that can be channeled well, but you've got to learn how to turn that off. You've got to learn internal boundaries. You've got to learn that. So that we're going to say that's not empathy. That no emotional skin sort of feel.
Yeah.
The other thing I think it gets kind of messed up with is the idea of compassion. People go, oh, they're so empathetic because they're kind and compassionate. That I hear those words and ideas interchanged a lot.
Okay.
And well, people will say, okay, so I work in the area of religious abuse, and there's a lot of people that I work with who are saying that pastor or that spiritual leader was so they were so empathetic to that person, but they were so horrible to me. And to me, there is a big difference between I can see a spiritual leader going to the bedside of some family, and their little boy is laying there on the hospital bed struggling for his life, and the pastor just gets big tears and it rolls down his face, and he is very touched by the scene. That is not empathy particularly. That's compassion. And compassion's a good thing, but that's not what we're talking about. The compassion, but that same pastor, when you come and say, you really hurt me when you said that, and the pastor gets mad and defensive and kicks back, that is where the empathy shows. I think empathy actually shows up a lot in conflict. Good, solid empathy, where you can go, oh, what's happening on the other side? We had this interaction. Let's say they said they're hurt. What is their frame of reference? What is their perspective on how that happened? What's the emotions, like you say, those 4 things, what's the emotions that they could have felt by what I said that I never intended maybe, but they felt that, and that perspective shift, that is where, in this situation, I would say, no, the pastor doesn't have empathy. I mean, most people feel bad for a family with their son on the, hospital bed. Now, some people are severely disordered and don't even feel that. But most people will be like, oh, the boy is, fighting for his life. The family is scared and sad. That pastor can be all there, oh, tears, supporting, what can we do for you? Anyway, I just hear that word overlaid with empathy a lot. And I'm like, no, that's compassion.
Okay.
So does that making sense?
Yeah.
You're looking a little puzzled.
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah. Okay. Good to go. All right. So I guess I want to make some distinctions along those lines too. To say, This isn't just empathy. The word's just thrown around so much now.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so empathetic. Well,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
And
I think, if I was to say, you mentioned, what is it not? What is empathy not?
Yes.
I think a lot of times, one of the definitions that's sort of roaming around there is that when someone is vulnerable with me or they tell me something that's hard, I have to have had the same experience to feel empathy. And that's not empathy. Like, you do not have to have your 3-year-old have a brain tumor and die from that to feel empathy for the family.
To engage what those specific humans are feeling. Not just what anybody would feel like in that situation, but what do those specific humans feel like as they're going through
And I think a lot of times this comes up like when there's been a death.
Yes.
This comes up a lot. There's a death in the family and we're kind of scrambling to know what to say. And often we're trying to come up with the same scenario where we've lost someone, maybe our dog.
We've all heard it, people.
Right?
Oh.
We compare, the loss of our dog to your 3-year-old that just died of a tumor. And that's not empathy, y'all. That's not empathy. No. Empathy is the grief part. Yeah. But you don't have to say, oh, I know what that's like because I lost my dog.
Because I think when we say, I know what that's like, that is actually not. That's almost the opposite.
It isn't empathy. You don't know what it's like.
You don't. And
you don't.
If you're empathetic, you're curious and learning what it is like for that specific human.
Yeah.
With their world, their life, their circumstances, their brain wiring, their personality, their history.
Right.
What is it like for them?
Yeah.
Specifically.
I think we get in trouble as well when we try to silver line. When we try to make things better.
Oh.
Right? We're like, and one of the phrases that I said a lot was at least.
At least. Oh my goodness.
Well, at least, like somebody's had a miscarriage. Well, at least you can have children. Yeah. We struggle with infertility. Like, that's not empathy. No, so if you just cut the at least out, that's where we're trying to make it seem shinier than it really is.
Yes. And I want to talk about, this leads to a big thing that comes to my mind that I think you're hitting on is, why is it so hard?
Yes, let's talk about that.
Why is it so hard? We say the most ridiculous things. I have the most ridiculous things in the face, especially to me, the higher level of suffering, the more ridiculous things are said.
Or more unexpected.
Yes.
Or more traumatic.
Yes,
we'll
exactly.
say some stupid.
Just because we don't know what to do or say.
Know. Yeah.
And so we say stuff and it's just like, no. Because, okay, I'm not going to say why we do that. Why? Because I think there's multiple reasons. Why do we go toward the at leasts?
Yes.
Or I know how you feel.
Right.
Or if you just, or, well, a lot of it's to fixing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fixing.
Yeah. So what do you think causes that?
It's a couple things. I think we're uncomfortable.
Totally.
You've lost your father.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you cry. And I don't like to see you cry.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do.
Right.
So I need to fix you. I need to make you okay. Right. Because I'm uncomfortable. Yes. So it's really about me.
Yes.
It's really about how I'm feeling.
Absolutely.
And I think the other piece is it's fear. That what happened to you could happen to me. Yep. Like I could lose my dad.
It's a form of distancing.
Yeah.
It's a form, this at least, but look for the silver lining, or just do it this way. And if we're talking about in the religious realm, where I work a lot, is God, so many God phrases that just, I don't even know if I want to put them out there.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Because they're just so many God phrases that, well, God's still in control, or, just all these things.
God needed another angel.
Oh, God.
He must have needed another angel.
Stop. Yes, exactly. So all these things we say are to soothe our
It's
anxiety.
us. It's about us.
And our discomfort.
Yeah.
And our, maybe even our existential crisis of our own mortality,
Right.
or our own fear of a loved one or friend that happening to them.
Yeah.
And it's much harder to just sit with them.
It's very hard to sit with them.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to encourage your listeners that actually it is very difficult to sit with someone in their pain. But when you get away from this idea that you need to change the situation for them, that you need to fix it or make it better, when you let go of all of that,
it's much easier.
It's so much easier to sit in somebody's pain, because I am not responsible for any outcomes for you. All I need to do is just be here and allow you to feel seen. That's my job.
Second, take your yellow highlighter. I am not responsible for outcomes of that person. That is where us recovering codependents and enmeshed relationships and anxiety people get in, and we can't stand the tension, and we take responsibility for outcomes in another human's life. You know, I gotta say, I'm a therapist, and I was actually getting pretty good at this before I became a therapist. I just want to say, when people are paying you money to fix them,
oh yeah, I bet it's even more tempting.
It is super tempting to stay there, especially when they give you this look. They talk, and then go,
tell me what to do. Please tell me what to do.
Yes. And some of them are, so what am I supposed to do? You know, and there's a time and a place for that, and I believe, you know, in therapy, to be able to discuss what is the next step or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is, I after 15 years in practice will still jump ahead to what to be done, rather than just sitting in it. And you know, the word honor comes to mind.
Yes.
It is so dishonoring to somebody to say, but, or but this. It's so dishonoring to their experience.
It's minimizing their experience.
It's so minimizing.
It.
Yeah. And I really love what you said, because it does get easier. If we say, this is not my outcome, this is not my life. Listen to me, recovering codependents. Yeah. It's not my life.
Yeah.
It's their life. They are an adult. They are a human. Well, assuming it's an adult-adult relationship. Parenting has its own challenges with figuring that scale out developmentally. But when I have a friend, if it's Kathleen, I'm not responsible for her. And so therefore I can, if I'm doing well, I can sit here and say, and just be, and go, oh man, ouch,
right,
ow, this is hard for you. I feel it, you know, and be able to be there. It really does. It slows you down. It slows your mind down. You're able to be present. Because if we're always on what things are we going to say and how am I going to fix this and how am I going to help them, which is a form of taking responsibility for them, which we want to get away from.
Right.
So yeah.
It takes a lot of pressure off. Yes, I have found off myself, and it's made it so much easier to just sit in it with them. And I think all of us, Connie, everywhere I've gone that I've talked about empathy, if I talk about things that, you know, people have said that were hurtful, we all have that story.
Oh, we do.
We all have the story when somebody said something that was like, are you joking me? You did not just say that. All of us have it. We know what that feels like. It feels gross. It feels minimizing. It feels dishonoring. It's like, you're not even listening to me.
No, you're just trying to figure out the next thing you want to say to manage your anxiety.
So I think for me, what's been really helpful is to tap into what that feels like.
Yes.
What does that feel like to me? I don't like that.
Yeah, so
I don't want you to feel that. Totally. And so if I can stay out of trying to fix the whole thing for you, and remember, I don't want you to feel like I'm judging you.
Yes.
Right? Or I'm trying to figure out who's at fault or who's to blame, or
correcting
you,
or guiding you.
I used to do that all the time. All the time. I would tell people, well, if you'd only did this, and you know, because I was this wise person and I was going to tell you all the stuff you've done wrong and why you shouldn't feel that way.
Yes,
That's
right.
another one. Do not say that to
way.
people. You shouldn't feel that way. Okay.
Uh-huh.
How am I supposed to stop?
Yeah,
feeling
exactly.
that?
Well, I do feel that way. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The part of the reason, well, both you and I have online groups.
Yes.
That are about the same size.
Yeah,
Yours
right.
a little bit bigger than mine. She's got Straight Up Real Mamas, which is a fantastic group of moms who are trying to be real and honest about motherhood and its difficulties and challenges as well as its joys.
Yeah.
So, and the wins as well as the losses. And so you've got that group. I've got my Overcoming Religious Abuse community. Yeah. And there's a bunch of people in there. And I mean, these are two, to me, if you wanted to take some of the top level sensitive areas in life,
right.
Motherhood and religious abuse recovery, it's pretty darn volatile. It is,
yes.
It is charged
yes.
in terms of, so part of what I want to talk about, I think this conversation about empathy has ramifications in parenthood, in marriage, in friendship, in our small groups, in whatever, in our workplaces, all in just about any domain of life. If you're looking for connection, empathy is essential.
It is essential.
Because you're with all the non-empathetic statements, you're blocking intimacy. You're blocking connection.
Yeah.
And so within these groups, so we both have these online groups, and both of us have talked to our online groups about empathy and about appropriate response, about not advice giving, not correcting, not trying to find the silver lining, not doing those things. Talk about, Kathleen, your group is older than mine, and you're more seasoned at this. How can we do empathy online?
Yeah.
In our groups, in even our own Instagram or social media, pages or whatever it is, what does that end up looking like?
Yeah, and I think you just named it all. I think you just named it all. And I think in both of our groups, we have intentionally tried to help our members stay in empathy by our hashtags. So in my group, I think in yours as well, we have a hashtag give, hashtag ask, right? And only when there's a hashtag ask are we allowed to give advice in my group. If somebody is not explicitly saying, hey, somebody, can you help me? We don't give advice.
Right.
And if somebody does give advice, I delete your comment. Right. Because sometimes, and the other hashtag we have is hashtag my story. Yes. And it's somebody they're wanting to just rant or talk about something that's hard or something that was great. And all they want from us is to see them.
Yeah, they just seen.
I just want you to see me. And that's as simple as saying, wow, that's really hard. Right. Or congratulations, I'm so excited for you. Yes. And it's just acknowledging that they said it and that you see and you hear them. And when we get in trouble, I think online is somebody says, I had a really hard day, and then we all just jump in to tell them what to do.
Yes.
What they did wrong, what they need to do differently. We love to give Bible verses.
Yeah. And sometimes even those are disguised. I mean, I know in our group, there have been times when I've had to take issue with some thinly veiled advice,
Right.
Well, we all need to remember to keep our perspective like this. Yeah. That is advice giving.
It is not empathy at all.
No, it is not empathy.
And I think we don't realize that what we're really doing when we say that is what you're experiencing. It minimizes it. Yeah. It's just saying the person, you shouldn't be feeling that way.
Right. You're doing it wrong.
Something is wrong with you.
Right. You're doing it wrong.
If you just did it right, you wouldn't feel those things.
You would not feel that way. Right.
And that is not empathy at all.
And it's also not true.
And actually what that does, it it creates disconnection.
Yes, huge. It severs connection.
Yeah, it severs it, and what it does is the person who shares that, they won't come back.
No.
They won't share again, and because it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's vulnerable to share your story, right? This is really hard. I'm sharing it with you. Please take good care of my heart.
Right.
And then when we rush in and we say those things, that person immediately knows what you're saying.
Right.
And they're not going to do it again.
Right.
So if you want...
If they're healthy, they won't do it again.
It's true. Right.
So
that's a good
some of
point.
us have struggled with, here, I'm just going to keep putting myself out there and getting reprimanded and because of the desire for connection.
Well, and I'm assuming even in your situation where people have been dealing with abuse, they're used to that. And I'm going to say this word, and you can correct me, but they're used to that kind of abuse.
Yes, right.
Because that's really what that is.
Right, well, it's a control. The essence of abuse is control. And we are trying to control people when we are teaching them, guiding them, correcting them, advice giving. And there again, is there a time for advice? Yes. When it's requested.
When it's solicited.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it's requested. Absolutely. Oh, there are so many angles to this. I want to hear, Kathleen has done some cool stuff. I remember when she first showed me this list, that she said, Connie, I've got a list. Will you look at this? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, this is gold. Kathleen has developed a list. Get your pencils out, get your phones out, start taking notes, whatever you take notes with. What are some actual empathetic phrases that we can use?
Right.
You know, our culture is really latched on in death to I'm sorry for your loss, which I think is a very fine thing to say. It's fine. I know some people have taken issue with it, and that's fine. Whatever. Nobody's going to say the right thing all the time. But there are a lot of things that you can say.
Right.
So what is your list? Here's the meat, you guys. Here's some good meat.
Before I do that, I want to bounce on what you said, because I don't think we touched on it. If you find that you have said something that you later go, oh my gosh, I just tried to fix them, or I just silver lined that, I have found it incredibly powerful in the moment that I recognize that to say to the person, I am so sorry.
Yes.
I think I just tried to fix you. I wasn't listening.
If that is a second, a minute, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year later, to be able, and a circle, to me, that's what, well, in my profession, we call that repair. And when something is repaired, when there's a conflict or something's happened and somebody comes back and does repair, our instinct says it's going to ruin the relationship. We're going to start talking about this and it's going to be so uncomfortable and it's going to actually put more pressure on the relationship. No. Exact opposite. The repair actually makes the relationship stronger than before the goof. Than before the goof.
Yeah. That's what I have found. It's been very difficult for me as a perfectionist to go back and say, I screwed this up. But I've done it. And I love that you said it can be any spectrum of time. It can be days later and I can text somebody, say, I was trying to fix you. I am so sorry. I was not listening. Here's what I wish I'd said. This is often, this is what I wish I had said. So I just want to encourage you, if you mess it up,
that's okay.
You can go back.
Totally. And
say, I'm sorry. Here's what I wish I would have said. So I want to say that. So one of the things I have, you may not be able to see this. Oh, you can't see it. Okay. Well, I have some cards that I've created that people can subscribe to my newsletter and they get these for free. They're not the full cards you're talking about, but I can read some of the things that that I have on here. And again, this has to do with intonation. It has to do with your body language. Are you saying this sarcastically? This is all about how you're saying it, right?
Well, and online, that's one of the things you got to be careful with. That's where punctuation and emojis and those sorts of things can help a little bit to say, okay.
Yes, online it's a lot more difficult than in person. So some things I have is, that sounds so incredibly hard. And then just pause.
That's all needs to be said.
I mean, really, that's all you could have.
It's validation.
It is.
It's saying, I'm hearing you, and I'm like, oh,
I'm so sorry.
That sounds hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Often in person, it can just be you're kidding me. That sounds terrible. I'm so sorry. That's it. Now, I'm so sorry is a little bit more difficult online because that can sound like you're placating,
Right.
Or it's sympathy, but that it feels,
Or even taking responsibility.
or taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. That feels like it took a lot of courage to share. That is something you can definitely say online.
Yeah.
Wow, that feels like that took a lot of courage.
I think, and I like your word "feels like." Because we don't always know how much courage
it might not have taken any courage.
Exactly. I've done that before, and people are like, no, actually, that was pretty easy for me to talk about. Okay, cool.
Right.
Good to know. And then if you keep curiosity, you go, oh, I just learned something about that person. That area of their life isn't as intense as, I've had that. People say, Connie, I can't believe the courage you have in sharing your story. Well, I've been doing it now for years. It just doesn't take that much courage anymore.
Right.
That first time,
yes.
the first few times took a lot of courage, but and that's okay. But when people say that, I thank them, and because I think I remember when it did take a lot of courage, or and depending on the relationship, I can say, at this point it doesn't, but it did at one point. So thank you.
Yeah.
But the point is, they're still validating.
They're acknowledging.
They're seeing that there was probably a process there. So love that.
And again, that's that word you mentioned, honored.
Yes.
They honored what you just did. That's
Totally.
what empathy is honoring the other person and what they decided to share. Let's see.
By the way, where can they get these?
I think Sherry just put it on there.
Oh, okay.
If you go to KathleenMPeters.com, scroll to the bottom of that page, there is my newsletter. And as a new subscriber, I send you a PDF version of this. So you can just have a digital version.
And just for those of you who know, who are watching this later in maybe a different format, this was originally a live video. So that's what she's referring to.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
we're watching little things coming up.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I forgot about that.
No, that's okay.
I hate that you're having to go through this. This is something you've said to me many times.
That's so
one
funny.
down.
I'd forgotten about that. I'm like, I use that a lot.
She
Yes,
uses
I do.
that a lot,
Well, because I do. That's a really, it's like, oh, I hate that they're having to deal with
And that is a powerful thing to hear from somebody who cares about you. Yeah. I hate that this is a part of your story right now. Oh. It feels really good to have somebody say that to you. Yeah. Because I feel like there is this also, I care about you so much. There is a sense that you wish that you could fix it.
Yes.
But you're not gonna.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like you're feeling, and this is whatever emotion, right?
Just good reflection.
Just reflection. Yeah. And again, if they say, no, actually, I'm not feeling that. Oh, they'll probably jump in and tell you what they are feeling.
Right. Oh, and if they don't, say, okay, I'm curious.
Yes, I love that. I'm curious.
Just what are you feeling?
Yeah. And I want to also add in there the curious part. Be careful with the curiosity. Sometimes that can lead us down a very dark pathway.
Well, it's dark. Yes. Thank you for bringing this up. Watch your own soul in this. Watch your own motivations for curiosity, because a lot of times when this is an immature curiosity, it's to figure out what they're doing wrong.
Exactly.
It's to figure out how you can correct them, or to be able to, to correct, to instruct.
Who's at fault? You're looking for who's at fault.
Oh, don't get me off on divorces. Oh my gosh. But this curiosity, an open curiosity about who that person is.
Yes. And
you have to earn that curiosity. That's the other thing. There are certain people I wouldn't, if I said, oh, it sounds like this is really, it sounds like you're really sad about this. They say, not really. There are some people I might not say much more.
Right.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. And leave it at that and let them decide.
Reading the
if
situation.
I don't know. Now, if it was you, I'd be like, we're long-term good friends. I'd be like, okay. So where are you? What's up? Right. Where are you? Because and you've earned that right with me. I've earned that right with you.
Right.
So it's going to depend on the relationship too, how much you really drill. You just need to be careful, because some of us, I'm a therapist, I'm a driller. So I've had to learn with years in social and relational situations to gauge, even though I am genuinely just curious because I love people and I love their lives and I'm curious about them, I'm not drilling here. And I haven't earned that right yet. It's not that relationship is not strong enough to support that yet.
The other piece to this is you can put somebody on the defense when you do that.
Totally.
Like, now I have to defend how I'm feeling.
Right.
And that's not empathy.
And what if they don't even want to talk about how they're feeling?
Yeah.
That part of empathy is to say, they're not into it. All right, you do what you need to do.
I'm here for you.
Right.
If you do want to talk about it,
Right.
feel free to call me. I'd love to hear. Like,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
So that give you some good solid
yeah,
starts.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
those are great. Aren't those wonderful? Oh, you guys, this is so helpful in so many ways.
Can I give you a couple don't say?
Oh, please. Oh, you guys, here's some fun ones. Let's have a little fun.
Time heals all wounds.
Oh.
That's a silver lining one.
Oh.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Okay. One of my best friends posted something the other day that made me laugh so hard. What did she post? What doesn't kill you makes you, oh gosh, I've got to remember it. What doesn't kill you increases your pathology and makes you socially awkward. And I'm like, this is so good. It was something to that effect. That's not quite the wording, but it increases my weirdness and everybody sees it, basically. It makes me harder to relate to. That was it. What doesn't kill, yeah, anyway, so yes. Okay, so yes, it's such a good one. It was really irrelevant, but was pretty good, right? Okay.
Right, yeah. Or, it's not that bad.
Oh, that just hurts me hearing it, and I don't even know the situation. Yeah.
Just let it go. You need to move on.
Oh.
That's advice. We're trying to fix it.
Bad words are coming to my mind right now.
Then my favorite one, you just need to forgive. That is not empathy.
Hives. Yes.
Even if it was true, that is not empathy.
Yeah.
And
No.
I know we have feelings about that word.
We do.
Stop being a victim. You're a survivor.
Ew.
Here's what I would do. You need to confront them. You'll be okay. You're really strong. You're going to be okay. Yeah. And these are things that we often say, women tell me on the podcast that are said to them that are just really hurtful. I think that's all of them. Do I have any other? Something you wouldn't want to say to like a sexual abuse survivor. I have this that I've made available in another empathy class I have, but it sounds like you need to forgive. And then
these are not to say.
Don't say this. Why? And this can go across for anybody. Why didn't you blank?
Right.
And again, that's looking for fault, looking for blame. That's getting details, intimate details you don't need to feel empathy. Oh. Right? That's not really curious.
No, that's curious. That's voyeuristic. That's not nice.
Yeah.
That's not openly, genuinely curious. That's like, ooh, give me details, because for whatever reason we're using it for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's where in human relationship we're often, I know through the years, I just keep finding more and more layers of not being aware, of certain things. And I'm pretty darn aware in a lot of areas, but my buttons get punched, and I'll be like, why did I react that way? What was coming up with that? And I'll have to go back. A lot of times this is in marriage. Oh, how did I have that little hot button there? What was that about? So it's so much of human relationship even is less even about how we're interacting. It is about that, but it's about what place. Like thinking about the idea of curiosity, even where's that coming from?
Yes. What's your motivation for being curious?
How are my needs getting met?
Yeah.
And then to be honest with that with yourself and be able to figure out, okay, I need met another direction. So big picture. Let's step back for a minute, Kathleen. Big picture. What if you were to send these people off with some good words about, what's that?
I'm going to send them off.
Send them off with some good words about empathy. What comes to your mind?
If you are wanting deeper connections with those around you, the people that you care about, I think empathy really can be key. I've had people come to me and say, wow, I took some of the principles that you said about empathy and I applied them to my relationship with my husband. And he was like floored.
And they had better communication.
They had better communication because he then felt heard.
Yes,
and
rather
seen.
than fixed.
Right. And I think this is, we all long for deeper connections.
Yeah.
And if you are struggling in this area, it could be that you are not practicing
it's one
empathy.
Of those things, right?
It can be one of those things. And I think for me, it's taking the heat off of being responsible for the outcome of this person.
Yes.
And
that's what I want you guys to hear big time. That's one of them, one of the many things. That's so huge.
It's been very freeing to me.
So freeing.
And I can walk away from situations where people have shared real hard things with me and go about my day. Yeah. Right? And still have them feel like I cared about them.
Because you did.
I did. I saw them, I heard them, I entered in with them, but then I get to go and live my life.
Yes. And you didn't get sucked down into the black hole with them.
Right.
Which I think sometimes, again, for us recovering codependents, we think that's real love. Yeah. Is to be down in the deep depths of despair with that person. And if I actually can be very present with that person and then go away and fix dinner and move on with my evening or whatever, that I didn't really care. That's a very codependent perspective. And to be able to say, I get to decide how much I'm going to emotionally engage this. Yeah. We get to make that decision. We do. And sometimes it hits us and we don't, but then we get to decide what we're going to do with that. And it's okay. It's okay to not feel some of these really deep things and have it drag us down with that other person. Yeah. Most of the time. And if a person wants that from you, that's not healthy. Yeah. There's something going on there. So, if they're upset that you were able to go fix dinner and just go on with your life, then we got a whole nother set of problems there. But for you to still be able to go, and I am okay, and I'm going to be okay, and to not feel guilty about that, very freeing.
It is and I think it's freeing for the person who is sharing with you, because I think sometimes we don't share with others because we don't want to burden them. Yes. Because we have the sense that is a burden. Exactly. And we free people to share more.
If they know we're going to go make dinner and get on with our evening. Exactly. Healthy people want that resilience in the other person, for them to be present with them, hear them, see them, understand the difficulty happening, and trust that that person is a healthy, strong person who's going to go, I am right here, and now our conversation's done, and I'm moving on to my next thing. Yeah, that's. I really want some of my listeners to know that and feel it. It's a big deal. So. Yeah. Oh, Kathleen, anything else? Did we cover all the wonderful things you do? I didn't mention this. You started writing some curriculum for small groups, and you still are willing to do some coaching around this and teaching, right? Around empathy, like in a small group or a large group situation. How do you learn empathy as a group and those sorts of things?
I have this dream of taking my podcast, the idea of taking someone's story that's within a group and having them tell us what they wish we knew, and helping that group learn from her story and then how to interact with one another and with empathy. Yeah. So kind of taking it on the road to it can be women's groups or community groups, and helping groups that are struggling to have connections with one another, how to do that, like practically.
I love that. I love it. Okay, I think we've just about covered it. Again, her book is Embrace You. You can get it on Amazon. Her podcast is What She Wishes You Knew. And
you can listen to that anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Anything Apple or Android.
What's the one you just got on?
Just got on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. She's getting a bunch of downloads. It's a great it is a truly great podcast, and I'm not saying that just because she's here.
It is really good. I really like it.
It really is. I mean, and people are really responding. So,
and if you are interested more in learning more about empathy, I have a newsletter that I put out once a month, and as a new subscriber, you get these cards that I've designed that have actual words that you could say that would be empathic. So
right.
if you go to my website, KathleenMPeters.com, and scroll to the bottom, my newsletter's down there, and you'll be sent a link to the empathy cards. And then periodically, you're just going to get information from me that helps you with having connections with people.
How cool is that, people? How cool.
They're fun.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Love to all of you. And let's go out and be empathetic. Bye-bye.